So as you all know, Shirdi Baba is in the house. I am living together with this fabulous man and this fabulous, sweet, compassionate energy. And it feels so familiar, like I've known it the whole of my spiritual journey and didn't quite know who it was or what it was. But the events of the past couple of weeks have been a bit unsettling. And I am returning to a topic that we have talked about before, called poverty consciousness. The modern and not so modern, because this started way back in the 50s and the early 60s, understanding of poverty consciousness and therefore the law of manifestation focused spirituality on getting what you want, not becoming who you are. So when all of the Eastern philosophies were brought to the West, all of the self-help books started to teach people about how to be spiritual in order to get what you want on the physical plane, how to become great manifestors. I mean, the law of manifestation is one of the most well-known, well-practiced laws in the human system at the moment. Everybody is practicing the law of manifestation. Everybody is writing about it. Even The Secret has said, here are the secrets: cosmic ordering, Wayne Dyer, Doreen Virtue. Use the angels, use your guides, use your masters, use the whole of the spirit realm in order to manifest what you want on the physical plane. And not one of those books is saying, people, ultimately your being on the physical plane is about who you're being. It's not about acquiring things. It's not about making things happen. So what you're supposed to do on the spiritual pathway is master the law of manifestation in order to transcend all of the human limitations of what we call poverty consciousness. So I am returning to this topic because my feelings, which are generally okay and range all the way up to fabulous, were seriously hurt by the notion or the accusation that this center exists for the making of money. And I thought, why am I having to deal with this? After all of these years of having surrendered my own poverty consciousness, what is going on? And of course, as I've just been saying to Marushan, the year of the rooster is about anything that's lurking inside of you, that needs to be confronted once and for all, checked out, sorted out, come to terms with, or even unearthed for a better understanding of everybody else. Then you must go look at it. The year of the rooster is about getting up on top of that rooftop and greeting a new dawn with all of your plumage brightly hued by the sun rays, meaning I am standing in the light. That's what the year of the rooster is for me. And I am about to enter into my personal new year. I'm going to be 50 all over again for at least the next 100 years. And I am so looking forward to it. I have a new sense of myself. My identity as this being is integrating beautifully. So when this came up, I was seriously upset. It went to the core of me in terms of my solar plexus, and it hurt. It hurt. So I thought, okay, let me look at this. When I began my spiritual pathway, and officially that would be the opening of the center, I gave up an incredibly lucrative job to do so. And I was poverty-stricken. I had no money. I opened my center, and even while I was thumb-sucking the money out of the universe and receiving support and feeling powerless in the face of using everybody else's money to make the center work, my guide said, when you choose this work, the understanding of light workers is that they will struggle. They will struggle with the law of manifestation. They will struggle with poverty consciousness in order to properly demonstrate to the world that poverty consciousness is a state of the ego mind. It is not a state of soul. Poverty does not exist on the soul plane. It is not the nature of soul to feel deprived, to feel without, to think that it doesn't have, because having does not exist for soul. Soul is its nature, and it is being, it is creating, it is becoming. It is not about having. So manifestation, the law of manifestation, as it is understood from a spiritual perspective, is that I manifest the best possible version of myself. Of course, it took me all of these years to learn, through running the center, through being on my own pathway, through teaching the law of manifestation, through practicing it. I've done the storyboards, I have done the focusing, we have got the books, I have done the meditations, channeled them, I've channeled the teachings, and everything I have learned about the law of manifestation is that the only thing I get to manifest is me, and this universe within which I am the master, I am the creator, I am the becomer, I am the observer, I am everything that is possible in a presence. That is what the spiritual pathway is teaching you to manifest. The stuff, the things that get manifested along the way, you eventually just transcend them. So when this came to me, my ego reaction, over and above the feeling in my solar plexus of being hurt to the core of me, my ego reaction, and I followed through with the ego reaction, was to be defensive, to tell everybody how generous of spirit I am, to tell everybody how much free work I do. And after I'd done all of that, I thought, Navi, you idiot, you fell into the old insecurity trap of thinking that you now have to prove yourself to something that is untrue. Why does the truth of you need to prove itself? And that was the last bit of my poverty consciousness. Because poverty consciousness is any aspect of self that feels like it is going without, that there is something absent, something missing, something that I am not being, something that I am not doing, something that I am not having within myself in order to fully express and be myself in the world. So poverty consciousness, as we understand it in the law of manifestation within the ego framework, is what is it that you don't have on the physical plane. And everybody wants the new car and the holiday and the partnership and more money in the bank. Everybody wants the crap they're going to leave behind anyway. And when I look at my life, I mean, I've been feeling like a prisoner in this house for what, 2 years? And I kept saying, when Paddy dies, my life will change and I will start leaving. I've been threatening to leave forever. Because eventually, when you have gotten to the point where the stuff is just stuff and it needs to be dusted and taken care of and maintained, when it takes more energy than your soul wants to invest, it becomes a prison. But my poverty consciousness was saying, I have to manage this. I have to keep this in order to be me. If I am not me in the space, then who will I be? Where will I be? How will I be? And I can talk about sitting under a tree and still being me and still delivering the truth, but the fact is that my clients like nice chairs. So I was caught up in that trap still. And until last night actually, after a long chat with Shahina, Shirdi Baba came up and he said, who are you now? What is missing for you now when somebody outside of you says something about you and it hurts? What was missing that you felt it? What was missing that you went into pain? What was that wound that hadn't healed? And the self-righteous me said, oh well, you know, it hurt because it was a lie. It hurt because somebody said something about me that was untrue and doesn't care that it hurts. And I was so upset about that. And he said, no, that is your ego talking. Stop. What is missing inside of you? What is missing for you that hurt? Because you are practicing detachment. What other people say is what other people say. It doesn't define you. It doesn't determine you. It doesn't become you when you are detached. So what is your poverty consciousness? And I had to sit. I had to sit for a good long while. And I thought about everything that is missing consciously. What is missing in my life? And of course, the only thing I miss on a daily basis is my dog. And even that, on a daily basis, she becomes present. So I looked for my child, and I looked for my family, and I looked for all of you, and I thought, you know, I love all these people. I love these people. They are so much a part of me. They all live inside of me. And even when they're gone, I love them. They're not missing. Paddy, I grew so accustomed to having her walk beside me and live my spiritual pathway with me that it feels like that anchoring, grounding, centering energy is not there. That this ascended master who kept me grounded and reminded me to not be ugly, Granny, to not come from my ego self, is not there. And yet, she is there. All of the spirit beings who are mine on the other side, who are related to me as family, as well as Fatima's family, who have been fully present for the past week or so, gathered. And they said, what is missing? We are all here. Spirit comes in abundance. Masters arrive without you asking. What is missing? And after a good few hours of feeling in every cell, feeling in my kidneys even, what was missing for me was me. I looked around and I thought, I actually don't know who I am anymore. I am so many people. I am so many beings. I have had so many roles. I have gone and lost myself. I have just lost myself. You know, I walked through my house and one moment I'm talking to angels or I'm talking with Shirdi Baba in my mind. And everything that has happened this past week has given me an inkling of what I am in so many different spaces, in so many different ways, in so many different eyes. And I keep myself limited to this understanding that I am Paddy's granny, and I am a teacher, and I am a friend. And sometimes I am a sister. And when it pleases me, I'm somebody's mother. And then I will go and make myself somebody's granny because it gives me such joy to do so. The fact that I can flow into all of those roles and not have an identity as me anymore came as a shock to me. And when I realized that I was missing me, it also felt so wonderful. It felt so beautiful that this me was finally so multidimensional that I couldn't pin me down to any one archetype or any one role. I couldn't pin me down to any one I am statement. And it felt like such a blessing that I had to see that I had gone. Any notion of what I am is gone. I don't know what I am or who I am anymore, except what that moment requires. And therein lies the courage and the abundance and the glory of being so. So poverty consciousness, when I look at it from here now, is what is missing. What do you think is yours, and yet it is missing anyway? Not the stuff. Everybody can manifest easily when what is deprived inside of you from a soul perspective, from a feeling perspective, from a I am nurtured and supported and answered perspective, what is missing? So I know people with lots of money. I am surrounded by people with lots of money. When the man who parked his Bentley in my driveway the other day, I looked at his car and I looked at my house and I thought, okay, his car is worth twice the value of my house. This is possible. There is plenty of money on the planet. And yet everybody is missing something inside of us. And we go in search of that. We go in search of that by buying something. We go in search of that by looking for partnership. We go in search of that in our friends. And it's so wonderful that on the human plane, in this grand context of relationships and interactions and experiences, we can find support. We can find ourselves. All of you live inside of me. Regardless of where you go and what you do and how your relationship with me changes. How you grow, who you become, whatever happens next, your relationship with me must change. And yet, you live inside of me. You are all alive and well and thriving inside of me. You are all growing and becoming inside of me. Every cell of my body feels that and knows that. And that is my abundance. That is why I'm here. And Shirdi Baba shows me this. He says he sat in Dwarkamai. When I went to Shirdi, I was starving the whole time. I was eating, and even as I was eating my lunch, I was planning my next meal. I was constantly eating, constantly hungry. When I left Shirdi, I lost my appetite. I wasn't so hungry anymore. And what I was feeling was the one thing that was always missing for him. This hunger to belong. This hunger to be fed, to be nourished by those who are with him, within him, to have belonging. From day one, this center has been established as a family. And as a family, we must grow. As a family, we must have difficulties. Families are not perfect things. So here in the consciousness, if we expect things to be perfect, that is poverty speaking, because it expects an ideal. And any expectation of others puts you in poverty consciousness. As a family, we must have disagreements and debates. We must have conflicts and confrontations. We must challenge each other into becoming more. We must learn to speak our truth, knowing that the fact we are family is a safe and sacred space. We must love each other so much that we can hate each other well, lovingly. And when we don't, when we have a fear of doing so, because Pragasi's email said, I can't say this to your face. This is poverty consciousness. It is a feeling inside that I am unsafe in speaking my truth, that I don't feel secure enough. I don't feel lovable enough. I don't believe that you will love me enough to listen to my truth if it disagrees with yours. And if you don't feel loved enough, it's not because I'm not loving you enough. If you don't feel the presence of spirit, it's not because the presence of spirit is absent. If you don't feel secure in yourself, it's not because the world is working at making you insecure. This is your poverty consciousness inside speaking. And I thank God for the experience, because I sat there and I thought, this is what I am. Nothing. It's a whole new level of nothing. And in this nothingness, I am claiming everything as mine. And then if I needed validation, that I had gotten through that one all right, Charmaine sent me a post first thing this morning. And considering that it's been a while since Charmaine has sent me a picture first thing in the morning, I thought, ooh, this is such a giggle. What did it say, Charmaine?
You know how good I am at remembering.
Yes. It said, it's okay to get what you need. You deserve the best. Now I've spent my whole life, from a poverty consciousness perspective, thinking, I have everything I need. I am everything I need. You know, it was all about need. What do you need? Have that need answered, and there is nothing else. And now I've even let go of that, because now I've come to a point where I am at one with the universe. The whole universe is mine. It's mine. That's it. And not one part of it do I want to take anywhere with me. Not one part of it do I want to claim and have ownership of, because really when you have ownership of something, you burden yourself with it. You must become responsible for it. You must nurture it and maintain it, and mostly not just pay to keep it, but work hard to keep it in its place. I carried Shirdi Baba all the way from Shirdi. It was very heavy. The whole way. We even thought we might have to pay excess luggage for it. Had it specially packaged and everything. It was a lot of work. And now I have to dust it. I should have left it there. Because he came too. It's enough that he is here. I didn't need the statue to remind me. But it's a useful tool to remind everybody else. And so we have to go through the process as human beings, understanding our limitations. We have to go through that process of manifesting, of using things on the physical plane to identify ourselves with, to see what we have faith in, to make tangible the experiences of the soul. That's what it's for. It's not for us to get attached to and claim ownership for it forever and ever, amen. It is there so that you can shift, so you can see more clearly, come out of denial of what your poverty consciousness is inside. Now, we've just been talking to Carol about becoming a parent. This is not an acquisition. She's not getting something. She is becoming a parent. This is a relationship. This is soul's work. And in becoming a parent, she is taking herself into a whole new learning curve. Baby will have to acquire a whole lot of stuff, as is the nature of babies, right? That's what we do with babies. But the soul curve that goes with that. So this is how we do the manifestation on the physical plane, and we accumulate the stuff in order to flow. But the learning curve that goes with it, we mustn't get distracted from that. We must look, what is missing in that aspect that I am addressing with my manifestation on the physical plane? So if you're busy manifesting a new car, what is going on inside of you? What is the real desire? What is the real yearning? What is the real need inside of you? From a relationship with yourself perspective, from a sense of yourself, your own identity that you are not addressing yet, that you are in fact manifesting on the physical plane with the need for a new car. Now the desire to be in partnership with others, to be in relationship with others, to be in intimacy with others. And every relationship has a level of intimacy, whether it's parenting or partnership or the teacher-student relationship. I mean, if I'm feeling all of you inside of me, this is an intimate relationship. That intimacy requires nurturing. And it cannot receive nurturing if your ego is directing it. It cannot receive the unconditional support, emotional support, mental support, even hand-holding support, crying silently with you. It cannot receive that if it is sitting in an ego framework. And it cannot be received if you are coming from an ego framework. So I have had days where I have sat here with total strangers, and I'm feeling them, getting inside of their beings and feeling them, and feeling their grief resonate with mine. And when I ask Spirit, why have I had to suffer so much in this lifetime? They say it's so that when you feel somebody else's pain, you will already have that frequency. You won't have to say something so idiotic as, I can just imagine. You won't ever have to imagine it. You will know it. That frequency will live inside of you. It will be part of who you are. And all of those frequencies together will become you. They will teach you. They will show you forgiveness, compassion, grace. And that's what it's done. So I see now how necessary it was for me to work my way up from the base of Maslow, all the way from that base to that pinnacle, move past it, and create a whole new triangle that sits on its head. But having got to the top of that triangle, I get impatient I want to come back to the base and drag everybody with me. And I can't. I can't. And so in realizing that I can't, that too was my poverty consciousness. I had to let go of that too. I had to let go of what I want for everybody, what I want everybody to be, what I want everybody to become, even in the oneness consciousness. I have said so many times, this is my poverty consciousness speaking. Wake up, people. Become spiritual warriors. Change the world. I want this world to be a golden age before I die, in my lifetime. I don't want it anymore. If you wake up, wonderful. If you don't wake up, you will eventually. And you will do it in your time. The oneness consciousness will become itself in its time. Not my time, not your time, not even the universe's time. In its own time, it will become that. And it is okay. It's wonderful actually, that everything unfolds. Poverty consciousness says, I want it then, and I want it then, and fixes it down to a human illusionary clock framework. It says, I want it in this time. I want it when I can see it. I want it where it will serve me. That's poverty consciousness, because it is also ego aligned. So finally, even with the whole experience of enlightenment, I was still sitting with my soul holding on to its ego in order to become something. And for as long as I was holding on to becoming something, I wasn't being anything. Certainly not who I am. Now I know where I come from. Now I know where I'm going. And it's always nowhere. I'm coming from nowhere, and I'm going nowhere. I have that same hunger that Shirdi Baba has. Not for belonging, and not for food, not even for humanity's growth, but that same yearning inside to always, always know God. And so I know that, and I know that, and I know that that yearning is answered. And that is the limitation of this physical body that I must manage every day of my life until I set it down and leave it behind. That this yearning to know God, to not be separated from it in any way, I cannot transcend it yet. This physical body keeps me separate from it. I have to be in my body. I have to teach from my body. Otherwise you won't hear me. If you came here and I said tune in without WebEx, you won't hear me. So I have to be in this physical body to serve this purpose. And so that glimmering of the yearning will remain until I leave my physical body and become fully my soul self. This spiritual pathway, as it applies in terms of the laws of manifestation, in terms of the law of pure potential, in terms of the law of mutuality, applies only in this duality. Beyond this, there is nothing to manifest. There is nothing to yearn for. There is nothing to desire. Everything is. It just is. So today's manifestation exercise and today's realization exercise is to go into your own poverty consciousness. What is missing inside of you, really, what is missing inside of you, that you are still hanging on to some fear. If you've associated it with money, that's fine. It's a commodity that all of us have in common. And so we call it poverty consciousness as it is associated with my finances. And we think we have outgrown that poverty consciousness because the bank balance is looking healthy. My bank balance is the purse. If it's sitting in 3-digit figures right now, I'm surprised. And I don't actually care. Everything I need, everything I want, everything I deserve, I have. More importantly, everything I value, everything I truly value is alive and well within me. Everywhere I go, there it is, mine, coming from me and through me, and always in a presence. There's nothing to lose, and there is nothing to gain when this poverty consciousness gets eradicated. If you have any fear of losing anything, money, a person, an animal, your place in the world, rank, status, losing anything, that's poverty consciousness. You have nothing to lose. You didn't come here to gain anything. You didn't come here to lose anything. But poverty consciousness will tell you what is yours and what isn't yours. And when that separation happens, something is missing. What you have ownership of and what others own. I gave my house away this week, by the way. I think you should all know this. I gave it away. I said, you have it. I will live here for the rest of my life, but make it yours. It's now your burden. It is now your problem. I feel so relieved I gave my house away, with everything in it. So long as I have use of my own clothes and my underwear, I don't care about the rest. I gave it away. Have it. And the minute I said that, the person who wanted it said, oh, let me think about this. You see? Yeah, it's like when they gave us Popeye. They were so eager to give us this parrot who needed anger management. They packed him up and put him in the car, and I immediately got suspicious. I was very right to be suspicious because he drove me crazy for a good few years. But this is the thing. You know? It's so crazy, the system of poverty consciousness. When you give somebody everything you have, they get suspicious. Yeah? They go, why are you giving it away? You know, what's it doing to you that you're giving it to me now? Why would you be so eager to get rid of it? Isn't that so? If everybody gave you everything they have, you'd be saying, why are they so eager to get rid of it? And you say, because it feels like a big headache on my head. You know, it's sitting on my head and it's heavy. I'm putting it down in your hands so I can go running around the universe with a house key, but running around the universe. They don't understand that. And I know I can have everything I want. I just don't need everything to have me. And there's a big difference. When the house owns me, it's a prison. When I own the house, it's a prison. Because we have each other. This relationship has got me stuck. So now I love it. It's alive and well inside of me. I gave it to him. Give it to him. So wonderful. With everything in it, I don't ever have to worry about how to pack up all the stuff. You know, it's such a relief. It's not my problem anymore. But it is still my sacred space. It's still my joy. It's still my bliss. I am still totally peaceful in it. Isn't that wonderful? That you can give it all away and the energy of it is still yours. That even if I do now go and sit in the Salvation Army, that room will feel exactly like this because I will be there and they will be there. The presence will be there. Everything that I value, including all of you, will be there. Will be there. The emphasis is on the be. Will be present. You will not be required in your tangible forms. You will not have to separate yourself from everything else in order to be there. So when we say, we will be there with you in spirit, even if we are not there in person, yes, you are there. This participation in a family. I said to Shahina yesterday, and I thought she knew this. I thought Shahina knew this. And only when I was saying it did I realize that maybe I've never said it before. So I said to Shahina yesterday, everybody must have a will, or something to that effect. But I got to a point where I said, Shahina, if anything ever happens to you and Ibrahim, do you not know that we will be there? That your children are our children? That nothing will ever happen to your children? That they will be taken care of? They are part of this family. Even Zita, part of this family. And this family has long arms. Never mind the two judges, it has long arms. It has an entire network of energy on the physical plane. It has an entire network on the spiritual plane. Why would everything not be taken care of? When the universe is ours to use well, because we love, why would it not be ours to take care of everybody? And that's what oneness consciousness is. That's what family is. Knowing that not only do you belong, but the support is given. Whether you ask for it or not, it's given. Whether you receive it or not, it is given. Exactly like the universe. And when I look at my 15 years in this center, and all the times I have bitten my fingernails down to the bone because I couldn't pay the rent, we were taken care of. 15 years later, we are still thriving. We have evolved. Everything I have ever needed or wanted has come. And when I look at my life and I see Fatima and Charmaine in it, these two people who provide a pillar of strength and dependability and reliability and support, and I look at all of you, I think, dear God, I didn't build a center. I didn't build a center at all. I built a series of miracles and blessings for myself. And after 50 years of living it, and now almost 51 years of living it, let's forget the 1 year, right? Because I wasn't really awake in the first year. I was asleep most of the time. But 50 years of living it, I don't know if I could ever be anything else, if I would ever want anything else, if I could possibly swap places with anybody else on the planet. I wouldn't. I wouldn't. Because nobody can count the blessings of this life. Nobody, not even me. I can't even see all the blessings of it. But when I look at my network and I see the ripple effect of all the love and the guidance that has been given through this center and through me and through everybody who is part of it, everybody who has changed and served a purpose, everybody who has gone on to love more, everybody, every client, and we have gone through thousands, I don't even know how many thousands of people in 15 years, never mind entire families. I look at that ripple effect and I can't even count. It's like standing in a graveyard and not being able to count all the dead people there, like at Fatima, you can't count all the dead people there. There's no way of quantifying things. But the love of it, I can't even qualify it. I can't tell you what the quality of it is, because there is every hue and form and frequency, every sort of love in it. And the only being I knew on the physical plane who could hold that space for me and make it real so that I could recognize it and walk with it and work with it was Paddy. And I miss that. I always miss that. So, poverty consciousness is a state of your ego mind. It is your ego mind saying, I have this, but I want that. So everybody who earns more, spends more. Everybody who gets this, wants something else. Always. And when we run out of things to want, and we run out of things to get, we discover that we don't have ourselves, even an understanding of ourselves. So there is one level of not knowing who you are. On the ego plane, it is confused. Don't know who I am. I don't know what I like. I live for other people. Everybody else has defined my identity. Everybody else is determining what I do every day. And then there is a whole other level of not knowing who you are, because you as an identity, separate from everything else, just doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. And my Lord husband says, when you cease to exist, then you just are. And as big a conundrum as that is for the ego brain, it makes complete sense from a light perspective. It just is. We know the existence of light because we see the sun. And we get our life force from it. And we see the stars. So we know the existence of light because we manifest it. We pinpoint it. We focus it on those specific spheres. And yet light is in the universe anyway. There are planets that give off their own light without the light of the sun reaching them. Uranus is not sitting in the dark, people. Maybe yours is, but not the planet. Joke, thank you. That's not a good term. Okay. Shirdi Baba says, never mind, bring it down. Just bring it down. You know, he had so many experiences of people not taking him seriously, of people donating to Dwarikamai and then accusing him, other people accusing him of getting rich from bluffing people, from being a charlatan, from receiving donations. He was not rich. He didn't build ashrams. He didn't build museums. He didn't have fancy cars. He had nothing. He begged every day of his life in 5 different households. And if none of those 5 households gave him anything, he didn't beg for the rest of the day. Whatever he was given, he shared. When people made donations to Dwarikamai, it was reinvested in Shirdi itself. This temple in Shirdi wasn't built in his lifetime. It was built as a space to house his remains because people needed something to go to identify with. It wasn't built to enshrine him as a being. And if you go to Dwarikamai and you see the humble circumstances in which he lived, well, he says, I live in 20-star luxury by comparison. You know? And he laughs at me. So the times, they have changed. Spiritual centers look different. Teachers look different. Masters look different. But this is not Oshu's space. This is not Sai Baba Puttaparthi space. This is not a space where you are going to come and find that you have to put on a specific uniform and adopt a specific tone. This is not a space where you have to make a specific greeting in order to be granted admittance. This is not a space where you have to bow at somebody's feet in order to become yourself. Because every one of those rules is the poverty consciousness of the teacher itself. And we don't have that here. We've never had that here. I was also telling Shahina yesterday, one of my students phoned me last week and said, she's now a disciple of some Swami or the other. I always forget his name. But she is now a disciple, and to become a disciple, she paid 100,000 rand. This is over and above everything else she will have to pay in order to join retreats and go to classes, whatever the drama is, right? You go on a yoga retreat in Rishikesh or whatever, what did the neighbor's son pay? Like 50,000 rand or something? Yeah, anyway. Spirituality is big business. God is big business when you look at it from a religious perspective. The universe is not. The universe does not run as a business. I run this center as a family. This business runs at a loss. Point blank, it runs at a loss. And most of the time, I have no idea how the bills get paid. I'm always surprised that they get paid. And I'm in awe of the universe that they get paid. I always turn around and look at Charmaine and I think she's paid the bills secretly. Or Fatima has paid the bills secretly. I'm always thinking that because I have no idea how things get paid. And I have no doubt that I am in debt, serious debt, to both of them by now, despite the fact that I have no other debt on the whole planet. And I don't even take my debts to them so seriously because they are mine. You know, they are mine. My debts to them are mine and they are mine. Besides, I could quote a few past lives for them and then just be out of debt. There we go, sorted, balanced. You know, that's where I'm living. This is craziness. But this poverty consciousness that is everywhere in the universe, we want to keep this land for these people. And those people must go and live over there. Poverty consciousness. We want to own this water and sell it to you. Huh? Whose water? My Lord, husband's water. Put it back. This is the craziness. The greed. And we have been taught this greed. And never mind greed on the physical plane. What that greed has done is that it has put us in competition with each other and created a poverty consciousness there in our sense of ourselves. There in knowing who you are is where the poverty consciousness is sitting. Any ounce of selfishness that is sitting inside of you that keeps you separate from everybody else is your poverty consciousness. And today's the day you get to hand it over. We have come out of the very first new moon of the year and we are moving into full moon with Our Lady of Lords. I am going to be celebrating life, love, learning and everything else that the universe throws at me. And I'm hoping this year it will throw everything at me. The good, the bad, the ugly and the fabulous. Because already it is mine. Before you've even thrown it, it is mine. Isn't that so? Yeah, that is abundance. Abundance is not that I live in bliss. Abundance is that the whole universe is mine. The good, the bad, the fabulous, the ugly, the downright awful. It is mine. That is my abundance. So people keep the ugly coming. Keep the challenging coming. All it will do is make the good look better. And I will look even more fabulous. That was not a demand of the universe, it was a demand on the human plane. Just clarifying for spirit. Thank you. So this poverty consciousness, this ingratitude that we have inside of us for who we are, and this is what I'm calling it. I'm calling it ingratitude. We have an ingratitude for the fact that we are these magnificent soul beings, that we are these magnificent beings of light. And until we get grateful for that, the selfishness that sits under it is going to undermine us. It is going to undermine you. And you live inside of me. So when it undermines you, it undermines me, and I come back and I do what? I shout. I scold, I nag, I say wake up. In the future I'm going to do it like my Lord husband does. I'm going to say, come Sajjana, the world is at prayer. Wake up, come be somebody's prayer answered. And maybe if you recognize that, you know, when he says those words to me, I think I am somebody's prayer answered. What an honor. It's not just a responsibility. It is such an honor to be somebody's prayer answered. So every morning, in your mind, I want you to hear this inner voice, this soul voice saying, come, wake up, come be somebody's prayer answered. This is why you are here. Some soul that you contracted with before you were born, prayed for you, made you possible, made you purposeful, and then God made you magnificent. You are somebody's prayer answered. And if that answers every ounce of poverty consciousness inside of you, so be it. And if you don't believe you are anybody else's prayer answered, then you are my prayer answered. Where else would I have become this person except with all of you who are unlucky enough to have to pay me to become this person? I mean, how much more abundant can you get? I have fun doing this. I get to be in the presence of masters doing this, and you pay me to do it. Isn't that abundance on both planes? I know. It was such a cool trick, that. So, we are going to wake up every day and be a prayer answered. You might not know what the prayer is. You might not know what the answer is. You might never know how you have changed somebody's life and created a miracle for them. But when you come from soul, and you come from that inner self that is willing to be generous, not just of spirit, but of being, you will answer somebody's prayer. Guaranteed, you will answer a prayer. And this is when I get to say Om Namah Shivaya. Okay, now we can meditate.